I'm Kathy from Eclectic Images and welcome to Crafting with Kathy. Today we're going to be creating a resist galaxy effect and I'm going to be doing it with the Pentel colour brush markers and some of our Eclectic Images stamps. So the Pentel colour brush markers are a watercolour ink in a brush marker form. I'm using some quite bright colours today to create the galaxy look. So I've got purple, sky blue, steel blue, light green, and of course black. And I'll just show the tip on these brushes is a brush tip. So it's quite flexible, great for doing lettering and stuff because you can get thin and thick lines really easily with them. But also wonderful for colouring. The inks blend so easily together. So that's going to create our galaxy look. The stamps that we're going to be using is the script Cherish, the large script Cherish, plus the butterfly and butterfly small. Okay, because I'm going to be putting a fair bit of water on this card, I'm using the 300 GSM cotton blend card, and I've cut a rectangle of card that we're going to use as a mask. So I'm just going to, I've put a little bit of double-sided tape on the back, and I'm just going to press that onto my leg a couple of times. I don't want it adhering too much to the card. I want it just a little bit sticky, but not too much. I want it to lift off the card really easily when we don't want it anymore. Okay, so this is just a guide of where my galaxy is going to go. I'm now going to use just some frog tape just to mask off around that rectangle. So we're going to need some pieces of tape. So this is where I'm hoping that I've got my rectangle quite squarely on the card. Don't drop your tape. Okay, so what I want to do is put the tape, which is just curling beautifully. We'll get another bit of tape, shall we? We'll keep going. No, it's all right. We'll keep going, Matthew. My camera was going, is she going to stop? Is this for the blooper reel, or are we just going to keep going? But no, we'll keep going. I'll just be a bit more careful of the tape not curling on me. Okay, so what I'm wanting to do is tape around the edges of this rectangle. So it is there as a guide for me. So I don't want to tape on the rectangle, I just want to tape around the edges of it. I could also do it by drawing a pencil line, but then I'd need to get rid of the pencil line afterwards. So we'll try it with just the masking and see if that works well enough. Lining up along this edge. So the reason I'm using this tape is it gives you a good clean edge with very little leakage underneath it. Although, of course, with our paper crafting, if we get a bit of leaking and smudging and stuff, we usually make that part of our art, so it's not the end of the world. But I do want to try and get as crisp an edge as I can. And this tape is one that will also peel off the card. As long as we peel it carefully, it'll peel off the card nicely after we've finished doing all of our colouring effects. So let's just pop the last bit down. Although I can see I've got a little bit of a gap there. So I'm just going to tear off this bit here and pop it over that little gap. Okay, so now I can actually lift out my mask from underneath. So what this has done is it's given me the area, and I'm going to take away my notepad now. It's going to give me that area that I want to work into for the galaxy, and that extra little bit of tape can just help to hold it down on my craft mat there. Excellent. Okay, so now I'm going to get the Cherish stamp and we're going to stamp it and clear emboss it. And I want it to go outside the edges of that galaxy area. Now, if I was really good, I would have had a sample one ready for you to see, so you could see where I was heading with this. But no, we haven't done that for you. So we're just going to have you watch along and hopefully stay with us and see what we happen to create by the end of it. So pressing down with the Versamark, I'm then going to pop some clear powder on it. tip that over my scrap. I've got things in all directions. So I'm just going to tip that off onto the scrap card. Now we're going to do some butterflies. And I'm just looking at where they're going to fit in. So I think we'll have one there and smaller ones to the other side. So let's ink up with our Versamark again. Pop a butterfly in there. Now I know this all looks really strange, but stay with me, it's going to work. And we'll do a little one there and a little one going off there. Okay, let's pop some clear powder on all those. Shake off the excess. Shake it all over the table, that's okay. All that excess will go back into our jar. Okay. I'm just going to give it a good tap off here. Get rid of excess and let's give it a heat. I just might wipe off my craft mat there. It's still a bit damp from the last cards I was making. All right, let's give it a heat. So our clear powder picks up on whatever the colour of the card is underneath, or of course sometimes it might pick up if you add a bit of colour on your Versamark pad, it'll pick up with that as well. So that is acting as our resist. Now we're going to pop on our brush markers. So I'm going to get my water spray ready and we're going to start colouring. Leave the black till last. We're just going to start colouring some areas. Bring in some of the green. You can see already how that Versamark, where we've embossed it in the clear, how it's actually resisting the colours as we pop them on. Okay, we'll give it a spritz and see if there's any areas where we still need to put some colour. Let those blend and bleed out. Now we might even use our little puffer tool just to move them a bit. Make sure we've got lots of coverage on the card. And of course we're going to get some interesting colours where the various colours meet. So we want it to be as mottly as possible. Now you don't have to use a puffer tool, you could use a straw, you could just leave the colours sit where they are. You could actually just tilt the card in different directions and let the colours run. Now I'm tossing up whether to use a bit of paper towel or whether just to leave it like that. I often do paper towel it off just to speed up the drying a bit. I don't want to lose all of that colour, but I just want to take out, I just want it to dry a bit quicker. So I'm just going to take out some of the areas where the water is thickest. Okay. Now I'm going to start coming in with the black. And we work this around the edge of the tape to the edge of our picture. And we use our water brush just to tease that out and let it blend into the other colours. So pop some black on and then use your water brush. So I put the water brush onto the card and then touch it to the black so that it automatically just bleeds into the card and into the other colours that are there. So you need to make sure your brush is quite wet. So every now and again, give it another squeeze. Make sure you've got plenty of water flowing through it. It's a funny thing, but the patchier it looks, the better it's going to finish up. If it's all too neat, you don't get as good an effect. Ha! Gooder! Oh, that's not good English, is it? Get a better effect. Okay, spin this around a bit so I can do it at an angle that you better see what I'm doing. So patting the black in there. You can also, if you see some areas where there isn't full coverage of colour, tuck a bit of black in there because it would be good to have black coming into the centre of it a bit. Pop your water brush on, tease it into the black, let it come out into the colours. Brilliant. Let's work across the top. So I'm not going completely over the black with my water pen. I'm tending to place the water pen on the card and then tease it into the black. Because I don't want to blend all of that black out. What I want is the black blending into the other colours. So we want the black moving around. We don't want to take away from the darkness, particularly at the edge of the card. We want that to stay nice and dark. So pop that down and then tease it into the black. Now let's have a look to see if there's any areas that need a little bit of breaking up. I'm not quite happy with that spot there, so let's pop a bit of black in there. Let it explode out a bit. Oh, that's fantastic where that's all bleeding out there. A little bit of white card still there, so let's add a bit into that. The more random it is, the better it's going to look in the end. Okay. Now, I think we just need some more darkness around this butterfly here. He's not standing out enough, so let's actually add a bit more depth in around that. You see, I'm just sort of dabbing areas just to get a little bit more movement with the colour. If I feel it's gone a little bit soft, we can just add a bit more there. That butterfly is very green, so maybe we might add a little bit of dark blue in around here. Just break that up a little bit. And then again, I can still come in with my water brush and tease those bits if they need it, just to make them bleed out a bit more. Right, I think that's looking pretty good. Okay, let's clean our brushes off, put our lids on. Now we're just going to come in lightly with the paper towel and just buff off our letters a little bit. Okay. Now let's give that a dry with the heat gun. Now when I'm drying with the heat gun and I've already got embossing there, I don't want to overheat that embossing powder. So I've got to make sure that I keep the heat gun moving. If I linger with it, the embossing powder will flatten back down and go boring. So we need to keep our heat gun moving so that we get airflow and not such intensity of heat. Few little bits that are just resisting drying a bit, so let's just dab those off with the paper towel just so that we can keep moving with the card. Now the tricky bit, I'm now going to take off the frog tape, and I just want to take it off nice and gently because I don't want to damage the underlying cardstock. And you'll notice I'm pulling just slightly on an angle and just slowly and steadily. Looking for which was the next piece that I put on, what's overlapping what. Just pulling away gently. And we've got a nice crisp edge there. As I said though, if we had a few bleed out bits, that'll be fine. It's just to give it basically that rectangular shape that I wanted. Oh, it's good sticky tape, this one. Getting myself stuck to it everywhere. Okay, let's take off a little bit this side here. Again, just going on the angle, nice and steady. Oh, that's really cool. And our last bit along the bottom. Hardest bits can be sometimes getting the first grip of it. That's it. And you're looking at this now and going, but what about the rest of the word and what about the butterflies? There's only half a butterfly there. But we have plans for that. Now that little bit of rectangle card we had to start with, let's grab that back again. We can use that to mask. So I'm going to, with our little butterfly, ink it up with some of these same brush markers that we've used, and I just smudged ink out on there. So let's just go with the fact that we actually want some ink smudged outside onto the background. Okay, so we've got mainly pinks up there, so let's grab some pink on this little butterfly. I think we'll add a little bit of sky blue in there as well. So it's mainly going to be the top bit of his wings that show. Okay, so he's going to go over like that. In fact, I can actually just stamp it over the top without using the other mask because the embossing powder will resist it. Now I'm just going to get my paper towel and just buff off the embossing powder area. And so we've got our design is coming out of our galaxy area. Now let's get our big butterfly and have a look at what colours are around him. So this is mainly blues, bit of the light blue, bit of the dark blue. So we'll go with some blues on maybe the light blue on this side of the wing. Remember, we don't have to colour the whole bottom of the butterfly because it's already on the card. Now let's fill in with our deeper blue. Colouring back towards where I'd done the light blue. Make sure I get those antennas. Do try not to colour the backing area of your stamp with the markers because they can stain it. So try and keep it just on the stamp, which means when you're doing things like the feelers, just go sideways like that. Don't try and colour like this because you'll end up getting that backing part. Okay, let's hope we've got it all covered. Line it up over where we already had the embossing. Good press down because we've got to get past where the embossing is. So we've got to make sure we give it a good firm press. Oh, how great's that? Loving it. Absolutely loving it. Now, Cherish. Okay, here's our interesting one. So it starts off, I'll actually put it up that way. It starts off, we've got the purples into blue, into green. So let's echo those. And again, we don't have to colour the whole image. We've just got to colour the bottom half that's going to be coming outside the galaxy. Let's go into our blue. And I think we'll go with blue near the end as well. And some green just in between those two bits of blue. Okay, let's stamp it on and see what we've got. So lined it up with our white embossed part of the word. Good pressure. Oh, how fabulous. I love it. Okay. Now we're just going to, I think we need a little bit of something happening around the edge of the card. So we're just going to grab a little bit of the steel blue. Actually, I think maybe just some splatters with it might work. Let's do that. So I'm just going to I'm going to give it a bit of a squeeze and make sure there's plenty of ink on it, and grab some scrap paper to put underneath. Okay, so I'm just going to give it a squeeze, make sure that there's plenty of ink to the nib, and then we can just get something like our metal straw and just tap that over it. Just get some splatters happening. And again with our black ink and a brush, rather than the brush pen this time, I'm going to just use my Versamark black and a nice big brush, which is me looking around to see where my black brush is because I'd gone and buried it. And we're just going to edge that card a little bit. Not to put my hand on the splatter bits because they are still a bit wet and smudgeable. Now I think the next bit we need is some white stars and some glitter in there, and it's going to be superb. So let's grab our white gel pen. Bit of pressure on to make sure it's working, and start adding in some white dots. We can also pop in some little actual stars. Sometimes you find you have to come back over these a second time just to make sure they're really white. You see what I mean now, when the more scrappy the colours are when you're putting them on, the better it looks. You don't actually want that colouring to be neat. And you want the black oozing into it all. I'm just going back over some of them. And I'm just then going to come in with a little bit of the unicorn glitter, unicorn stickles. I'll just get that into shot for Matthew a bit. There we go. That's the, oh, there we go. Get this flare off it. The unicorn stickles. And we'll add some of that in as well. I'm just checking on my scrap paper that I've got it flowing. That is enough. Oh, wow. I love it. Absolutely love it. Let me move all the scrap paper out of there so you can just see the card itself, just with a black background. Ah, that is so much fun to do. Really hope you have a go at this one. So it's with the brush markers and our stamps and just masking off that area first. But as I said, make sure you get your Galaxy look nice and patchy. Fabulous. I hope you've had fun with this one, watching along, and hope you have a go at it yourselves as well. And we'll see you next time with Crafting with Kathy. Thanks.